Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I don't think of myself as controlling. I think of myself as careful. Careful is what you are when your dad taught you to balance a checkbook at 10 and your first apartment had a radiator that sounded like a cough and a landlord who sounded like a shrug. Careful is making sure the lights stay on, the dentist gets paid, the college/unknown emergencies account has a little more each month. I'm an accountant by trade, a spreadsheet romantic by temperament. People hear that and picture a guy who sleeps in a tie. I sleep in t-shirts that say things like "audit this because Rachel bought me" the first one as a joke and then it became a bit. Rachel is the kind of person who buys a joke shirt and somehow makes it not a joke. She's 39, comes alive in summer, loves spicy food she can't finish, and puts on music to cook eggs like we're in a movie. She works part-time in HR at a medical group, onboarding nurses, shepherding paperwork through the kinds of portals that hate everyone. We've been married 12 years. We don't have kids, not because we didn't try. Life said not now enough times that we learned to make a home for two and a grill big enough for other people's children when they're over. We're good hosts. That's one of our best features. If there's a sentence that describes us in winter, it's this: I make chili, she lights candles, we watch a crime show and argue about who did it. She's usually right. I remember our first big fight was about the dryer lint trap, whether cleaning it every time was paranoid or how not to burn the house down. She rolled her eyes, cleaned it, and kissed me like I was a lovable idiot. I took that as a truce we could keep forever if we were careful. The thing about being careful is that it can look like a cage to someone who likes open windows. Rachel started saying, over the last couple of years, that life with me felt like living in a planner. Everything's by the book, she told her friend Allison on the phone one night, thinking I was in my office and my headphones were on. They were around my neck, that useless scarf. He's a great man, Allie, I know. He kept my parents' business from going under. He thinks 3 steps ahead. But does everything have to be 3 steps? Where is the "I don't know" accident? She laughed self-consciously. Where's the mess? She didn't mean mean. She meant restless. I told myself that a dozen times and then a dozen more. The thing with resentment is it doesn't arrive like a thunderclap. It seeps, like water through a seam you thought you sealed. You notice it when the paint bubbles. Tax season is my Super Bowl. At work, it's chaos with coffee. At home, it's me at the dining table with the banker's lamp Rachel found at a flea market and insisted we buy because if you're going to be a cliché, be good at it. We keep joint accounts for everything household and separate credit cards for our slush. That was her idea. I don't want to feel like you're auditing my lipstick, she said. Fine by me, the joint is where bills live, and the separate is where Target goes to multiply. Every March, we run through everything together: 1099s, W-2s, HSA statements, 1098 for mortgage interest, our little constellation of charges and charitable donations. We've done this a decade. It's part of how we stay honest, we both sit in the light. This March, we sat down on a Saturday with coffee and a shoebox of receipts Rachel had been saving with the zeal of a raccoon. I teased her, she teased me back. It felt like us. I opened the spreadsheet I use every year, DR year-end summary. XLSX, because I am the person who names files like that. The first tab is a dashboard with green cells for complete and yellow for pending, because my brain likes stoplights. Rachel sipped and scrolled her phone between asks. Can we write off the new printer? Partially, home office, I said, already moving the cursor. I don't want to make this sound like a movie where a single number glows red. It wasn't like that. It was a pattern you notice at the edge of your vision and can unsee once you turn your head. On her personal card, which I include for line of sight and budgeting, there were line items that didn't fit her normal orbit. Not a one-off massage or a girl's brunch. Recurring charges. 2, actually, Riverview Suites and Eden Spa Wellness, both downtown, both places we've joked about but never set foot in because we are not $230 for steam people. The first charge was 4 months back, then 3 weeks later, then 2 weeks, then weekly. The amounts were astronomical: $184. $93, $212. $40, $198. $60, but they were consistent. Eden Spa had matching footprints. And there were Uber charges that began and ended in the same 3-block radius on nights she told me Allison was in town and they'd do wine and walk. I froze the way you do when you see a shape in the water. You don't thrash. You don't even blink. You let your eyes adjust. "Hey, Rach," I said, aiming for neutral, "did you ever end up trying Eden? I see a few charges." She didn't look up. "Yeah, they do a decent foot scrub. Overpriced but the chairs are warm." "Why?" "Just categorizing." I clicked into Riverview. "And Riverview Suites?" She made a face, the one she makes when my questions feel like paperwork. "Oh, that's for Allison. She had a voucher she couldn't use, so I ran it and she gave me cash." She said it quickly, the sentence tripped. "I told you, remember?" I didn't remember. "In our house, I told you as sometimes I thought I told you, I meant to tell you, I didn't tell you." I nodded, moved a cell from yellow to green, and kept the river in my chest from overflowing its banks. I didn't press. "Not then." I breathed and finished the session and suggested we take a walk. We did. We held hands. We talked about a neighbor's ugly lawn gnome like it was urgent. When she went to bed, I stayed up and pulled the statements into a separate tab. I color-coded the charges, blue for unknown but plausible, orange for needs explanation, red for Riverview and Eden. I sorted by vendor, then by date. The pattern sharpened. Most were after her Pilates class at a gym she joined 6 months ago. Twice, the hotel and spa hit in the same afternoon: check-in, spa, Uber home. There were tips on the spa receipts, heart emoji next to one, like the receptionist had a flourish. The Uber destinations hovered around a building where a high-end boutique studio sits on the second floor. I called it research. That's what accountants call what they do when they're afraid to call it suspicion. The next day, I did our taxes. I do this for a living, I can do our 1040 half asleep. The IRS does not care about your marriage. Numbers go in boxes or they don't. But as I filled in our charitable deductions and typed our mortgage interest and double-checked our HSA carryover, our life kept flashing in the corner: Rachel laughing at a dog in a sweater, me cutting limes for tacos, the time her parents called panic because the IRS had sent a notice about payroll taxes and I went over with a legal pad and came home 6 hours later with their business pointed back toward solvency. Her dad, Jim, hugged me, a rare thing, and said, "You're a good man, Tom," in a voice men use when they don't talk about feelings but still have them. I put out their fires. I put out ours. I thought that was love. I didn't confront Rachel on Sunday. I watched her make a playlist called March Melt and dance while she wiped down the counters. I grilled chicken and overcooked it because my mind was elsewhere. She didn't tease me. She touched my arm and said, "Next time I'll do the grill, you be fun." I laughed. I put the receipts away. I told myself I could keep still until I had something that wasn't a hunch dressed as a pivot table. Monday night, she said she was going to a later class because the earlier one was too full of influencers. She rolled her eyes in a way that made me remember everything I loved about her, how she refuses to let the world make her small. She kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up." I didn't. I waited anyway in the way that means you pretend to watch a game and you're actually watching the clock. The next morning, I called Riverview Suites. I told the receptionist my name and asked, like a man planning an anniversary, if they had a record of visits under Rachel Whitaker. She asked me to hold. She returned with a tone like someone just discovered a friend of a friend. "We do have multiple stays, yes. Could you send an itemized receipt to the email on file?" I asked, and gave her mine, because I do all the bookings even when I don't do the bookings. "I can send a summary," she said. "We don't share guest details beyond that for privacy." "That's fine," I said, and meant it. The summary landed in my inbox 5 minutes later: dates, amounts, day use, executive room, check-in times around 1:30, check-out by 5:45. The industry invented day use rates for naps and affairs. The spreadsheet in my head stopped pretending it was anything else. I called Eden Spa and asked if they had a couple's room. "We do," the voice said brightly. "It's very popular. We host a lot of just because afternoons." She laughed like she told that joke a lot. I thanked her and hung up and sat very still. I could have confronted her that night and we would have fought for 6 hours and both said things we couldn't sheath. I could have confronted the man, if I knew who he was yet, and become a version of myself I wouldn't recognize in a year. Instead, I did what I know how to do. I opened a new tab in the spreadsheet and named it Reconciliation. I cross-referenced dates, charges, her calendar entries. I noted 2 gym pop-up events at a boutique studio on 3rd, the same building above which Eden sits. I found his name by accident 2 days later when Rachel left a water bottle on the counter with a handwritten note taped to it, "Rachel, bring a sweat towel next time." Mason, smiley face emoji, it was on studio letterhead, a marketing smile in 12-point font. I didn't need the smiley. Mason is a name men get when their mothers want them to sound like they'll own property. I looked him up on the studio's site. There he was, front and center, Mason P. Hit, strength. The kind of jaw that happens to a man who hasn't learned about carbs, a bio that said I'm passionate about helping you find your fire. I'm a CPA. I find my fire in Excel and people rolling their eyes at their own relief when a knot untangles. I didn't hate Mason. I hated the idea of becoming the man who monitors another man's jawline. I had the reconciliation tab built by Thursday, dates, amounts, a simple chart that would make sense to anyone, even if they hadn't seen the gears move. Friday morning, I texted Rachel's parents, "Would you two be free for dinner Saturday? I'm doing a financial review, year in review, and I'd love your perspective." This was not a lie, which is how I prefer to live. Jim replied, "We'll bring pie." Patricia, "I'll bring that spinach thing you like." Rachel asked what the occasion was. "Early spring cleaning," I said. "I'm looking at our year. Thought it would be good to loop your folks since we share a lot of big decisions." She gave me a look like maybe she smelled the edge of something. "Okay," she said, lightly. "Should I get wine?" "Please," I said. "Your mom likes that Sauvignon Blanc that tastes like grapefruit." All day Saturday I wondered if I was the villain in a story I couldn't see yet. I made roast chicken. I set the table with the good plates because ritual matters. I connected my laptop to the TV with the HDMI cable that lives in the drawer with batteries and takeout menus. I built a clean, bright set of slides like I do for clients who need to see where their money has been. Title slide, Whitaker Household, FI Review. A joke, a fig leaf. A photo of us from last summer, Rachel in sunglasses on the deck, me holding a burger like a trophy. We looked good. We looked like people who had solved the lint trap and never needed to solve anything harder. Jim and Patricia arrived with pie and spinach and the kind of relief I always feel when kind, older people come into my house with casseroles. Rachel poured wine and made small talk at a pitch that meant she was trying to set the tone to light. I let her. I carved the chicken. We ate, laughed about the neighbor's lawn gnome again, because some jokes become home. I asked Jim about the business. He said, holding, and squeezed my shoulder the way men do when they say thank you without saying thank you for last year's frantic spring when the IRS letter looked like a guillotine and I walked in with a spreadsheet and a pen and left with him breathing again. After dessert, I said, "Before we clean up, can I steal 10 minutes? I want to run you through the numbers. Taxes are filed, this is more of a health check." No one said no. Patricia loves a health check more than kale. Slide 1, savings up 4%. We clapped for ourselves. Slide 2, emergency fund healthy but could be better. Rachel joked about a meteor. Slide 3, discretionary spending, travel, dining about average. Slide 4, outliers. I used a neutral font. Bars for Riverview and Eden were a different color because they were technically personal care, lodging, a category that isn't normally a mountain range. Rachel stiffened, barely, but I know her bones. Jim leaned forward. "We go there?" he asked, surprised, a little delighted that maybe we had become fancy in a way he hadn't heard about. "We haven't been," I said evenly. "These are day-use charges and spa services, sometimes on the same afternoon." Rachel said my name softly like she could blow out a candle by whispering. "Tom." I clicked. The reconciliation tab appeared, date, vendor, amount, corresponding phone calendar entry. I didn't annotate. I didn't circle. I let the progression tell itself. I included the summary email header from Riverview, no detail, Just the header with the words "Day Use, Executive Room" repeated like a stamp. I included the Eden invoice headers, Couples Suite, Aromatherapy add-on. I included the Uber timestamps to and from the block. I did not include Mason's headshot. No one spoke. TV light made us all look a little more blue than we were. Rachel's wine glass was on the coffee table, a lipstick crescent making the rim a little crime scene. She stared at the screen like maybe if she didn't blink, she could keep this from happening in the room we were in. Jim was the one who moved first. He turned his head toward his daughter with an expression I've seen on his face maybe once in 12 years, when he broke his wrist and refused to cry. His voice was quiet and full. "Tom saved our business," he said, like a man laying down a card and daring anyone to ignore it. "He saved our house. He did what he said he would do. And you," he looked at the screen, then at her, "you're spending family money on a lover?" Patricia made a sound, small and fierce, the kind mothers make when they wish sounds could be shields. Rachel swallowed. She kept her eyes on me, not on her father, like maybe if she could get me to look away, the look in his wouldn't exist. "I'm sorry," she said. 2 words, simple as a coin dropped in a jar. She did not deny. She did not explain. She did not say Allison's name like a decoy. She just said the thing you say when the whole shape of your life tilts and you realize you have been walking on a gradient and telling yourself it was flat. The careful part of me wanted to make a speech about percentages and expectations. The husband part of me wanted to say every angry sentence I had ever not said because it wouldn't have helped pay a bill or save a day. The person part of me, the one who still loves the way she dances while wiping counters, felt a sorrow so clean I thought I might cut my hand on it. "How long?" I asked, because the length of a wound sometimes matters to the surgeon. She exhaled. "Since October," she said. "I met him at the gym. It wasn't supposed to be," she shrugged, a helpless movement I had never seen on her. "I felt like my life was all scheduled. I know that's not your fault. I know that's not a reason. I was stupid. I am stupid." "Don't say that," Patricia said reflexively, because mothers reflexively put out that fire first. Then, softer, "What were you thinking, baby?" Rachel laughed once, a flat sound. "That I would feel alive," she said. "That I would get something back I thought I lost." She looked at me then and I knew she meant us when she said lost, and that made it worse, the way people name theft as if it were grief. Jim stood. He does not stand unless there is standing to do. He isn't tall, but when he's up, rooms adjust. He put his hand on the mantel like he needed a thing older than all of us to lean on. "I'm ashamed," he said, and that word did not carry the usual religious baggage. It carried the weight of a man who grew up with 5 siblings and 1 bathroom and never forgot that other people keep you alive. "Of what you did," he clarified, because he is fair. He turned to me. "Tom, he choked on pride or pain, I don't know which. "I'm with you. In whatever you do next." We sat in the quiet that follows the exact truth. Rachel reached for the remote and then put it down, like covering the screen would cover the season. "I want to fix it," she said. "I know that sounds like a child. I want to try." She looked at me with eyes that were both the girl I fell in love with at a barbecue 12 summers ago and a stranger who had spent afternoons in a room I've never been in. "I'll quit the gym." She stuttered on the list and let it die. I nodded. I was aware of my nodding like it was a medical condition. "We're not deciding everything tonight," I said, because I have seen too many people make forever decisions in now bodies. "But some things are immediate. We'll freeze your card. We'll move to separate finances for now. I'm going to see a lawyer. You can see one too. We'll get a counselor. If you want to try, we can try to talk to someone in a room with chairs that don't squeak." She nodded back, grateful and terrified, which is a strange thing to be in the same face. "Okay." Patricia went to the kitchen because women of a certain generation solve the unsolvable by standing near a sink. Jim sat again, like a verdict had been handed down and now paperwork must be filed. He looked at the pie as if it had disappointed him personally. "We brought lemon," he said to no one, a sentence that will be funny to me a year from now and was not funny then. "We didn't raise our voices. We didn't throw anything. We stacked plates." Rachel's hands shook when she rinsed. I dried. Jim and Patricia hugged us both because that's who they are, equal huggers even on a battlefield. They left in a hush that wasn't cold, just tired. Rachel went upstairs without asking me to follow. I sat in the glow of the TV with the slides still open and felt like I had done an excellent job presenting a case I would have given anything not to win. I didn't sleep. At 3, I opened the spreadsheet again and added a new tab, Next Steps. Stupid, I know. But it's how I breathe. Bullet points, freeze card, done. Separate checking, open Monday. Find therapist, call list from PCP. Call attorney. Referral from Sarah at the firm. Tell Allison, no details. Tell work, PTO flexibility. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel like a person and not just a witness. Sunday, Rachel made coffee and couldn't drink it. She cried like a faucet with new washers, stops and starts that made me want to fix a thing you cannot fix with a wrench. We walked without holding hands. We passed the boutique studio and both looked away. She texted Allison, I texted my friend Mike, the one who talks like a coach and listens like a priest. He wrote back, I'm here. Don't become a version of yourself you'll hate to remember. Good advice travels well. Monday, I opened a new checking account in my name for household bills and set up direct deposit. I called the mortgage company to remove Rachel's auto pay access temporarily. Not to punish. To stop the bleeding. I set a reminder to revisit that choice if we were still in the same house and not just roommates with different calendars. I called a therapist. The earliest couple slot was 2 weeks out. She had an individual opening Tuesday. I took it. The woman on the phone said, good, like I had said I'd like to put down the heavy thing, and she was pointing to the floor. Rachel emailed Eden to cancel her membership and CC'd me. An oddly formal act that somehow told me she meant to try to do the next right thing. She blocked Mason, then unblocked, then blocked him again. I know because she said it out loud in the kitchen like a confession in a church that has a coffee pot. She said she'd tell me if he tried to contact her. I believed her. I did not believe this would be a straight line. I told work I needed some flexibility. My managing partner, Sarah, has seen 3 divorces in the firm in as many years and has a therapist's eye for men trying to pretend they're just tired. She said, take what you need and bring me the Parker file Wednesday. We both grinned, making work a raft again. Rachel's parents kept showing up with food and just checking in. Jim helped me fix a leaky valve in the upstairs toilet on Thursday and didn't say the word Mason, which was his gift to me. We didn't make Rachel the enemy in their house. They didn't make me a saint in mine. We all did the small, unshowy things that keep a family from turning into a courtroom. In therapy, I said, I built a life where nothing fell. She wanted something to fall. The therapist asked me what I would want if I didn't have to make a list first. I said, to not be humiliated, and then surprised myself by adding, to be surprised, but not like this. She nodded. Can you tell her that without making her your student? I laughed, embarrassed at how seen I felt. I don't know, I said. I'll try. The couple's session was painful and not hopeless. Rachel said words like gray, numb, and electric and didn't try to rename them. I said words like betrayal, pattern, and budget, because language is what we had. The therapist stopped me when I started to explain the spreadsheet. She said gently, Tom, I know the chart matters. I also know there's a world under it. I swallowed. I built the chart so I wouldn't drown, I said. I know, she said. It worked. Now we need to learn if you both want to swim. Here is what I can tell you a month out, the house is quieter. The gym membership is cancelled. The reconciliation tab lives on my desktop like a scar I don't need to pick for it to itch. We do dinner at the table with phones and a drawer. Sometimes the conversation is about soup, and sometimes it's about how she looked at me the night in front of her parents and didn't run from the light. We sleep in the same bed. We don't touch every night. When we do, it's not an apology, it's a question. Jim and Patricia came over last Sunday and we did not open the spreadsheet. We watched a game and argued about a ref and ate the lemon pie that will be funny to me in a year. Jim hugged me when he left and said, Gruff, you're still a good man. Rachel heard him. She looked at me with an expression I can't translate yet. Maybe that's the point. Not everything needs translation, Some things need time. I don't know where this lands. I know I won't be the man who sets his whole life on fire because the plan changed. I know I won't be the man who pretends nothing happened because the dinner plates still match. I know I will keep saving for the future even if the future isn't the one I drew in pencil 12 years ago. I know that when I stand in the yard at dusk and the neighbor's dog barks at nothing, I can breathe in and out and not count to 10 before I do it. The other night, Rachel put on music while she wiped the counters. She didn't dance. Then she did, a small sway at first, then her shoulders loosening. She looked at me and said, "Come on," like we were in a movie we could direct if we wanted. I stepped in. We shuffled in our socks. It was awkward and not, both at once. The kind of moment that isn't on any spreadsheet but still belongs in a life. Careful is still how I'm built. But I'm learning that careful can include curiosity, not just caution. That a budget can hold a line item called unknown without collapsing. That love, if it's going to be more than a ledger, has to survive a little mess. I'm not romantic enough to say this made us stronger. I am honest enough to say it made me truer. And if the final slide of this year, whenever I present it to whoever we are then, reads status, in progress, I can live with that. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.